Hello and welcome to my first ever video here on YouTube. My name is Erin. On most of my social media I go by the name punkydumplin, which is a nickname that my dad gave me when I was born, and that should probably tell you about how dated I am. And I finally decided that my art was okay enough to do a YouTube channel. It doesn't make me cry on the inside anymore, so hopefully it doesn't make anybody cry on the outside. The piece that you are currently watching at the moment is a digital work that I did of a sketch from my sketchbook that I ended up really liking. And before I get into the details of that, I guess I will give you a few details about myself. To start, I am an old lady. I am 30, and I have been drawing for about as long as I can remember. According to my grandmother, when I was just very small, she decided she was going to teach me how to draw helixes, which, if anybody knows what they are, that's basically just scribbles. And I was about 11 months old at the time, and according to her, I haven't stopped drawing since. And I grew up in the middle of nowhere, in the sticks in Nevada. And I was not the kind of person who was big into small town living. I lived in a ranching community, and I didn't like hunting or fishing or gutting pigs or rodeos or horses or any of that junk. So I stayed inside and I drew pictures, so I became the weird art kid. Thankfully for me, my entire family on my mother's side is very artistic. Both of my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my mother, all very big into the arts. So I had a lot of support from them, especially when it came to my drawing, because I was the only one of my mother's 5 children that decided to continue drawing after childhood. And I got really lucky also. My senior year of high school, my mother was my art teacher. I got away with so much crap that year. Anyway, they were very supportive of me and always very supportive of my art, and they also were supportive of my decision to decide to go to art school, which I did, and I graduated from art school in 2009 with an animation degree that I am not currently using, and I would discuss that now, but that is a video for a much later date. And I decided to start this YouTube channel because, one, I wanted people to look at my bad art, and also my personal goal for this is to hold myself accountable. My biggest flaw as an artist is I love to start things and I suck at finishing them. So my hopes are, with even, say the 3 subscribers that I'll ever have, Mom, Dad, and Grandma, hi guys, my goal is to try and post on here weekly, so that would force me to finish at least 1 piece per week. That's the plan, at least. Keep your fingers crossed on that, because Lord knows my plans don't always work out. Anyway, so to get into the piece that I am working on, this piece in particular, as I said, was a sketch from my sketchbook that I ended up really liking the feel of the sketch. So I inked it and scanned it into Photoshop, or scanned it into my computer and put it into Photoshop, which is my digital medium of choice. So I started coloring it up. I usually lay in the base colors. I color pick the highlights and shadows, and then I turn down the opacity and flow and just kind of go to town. I try to make my digital art kind of look more painterly, especially more oil painterly, because I loved painting in oils, but unfortunately I'm a live-in nanny aside from my art, and 2-year-olds and oil paints just don't mix. It just doesn't work. Anyway, so in this piece right about now, I'm fixing up some major flaws that I had with the character in the back. Namely, his sizable jaw, his eyeball that was way too far forward, and his neck that was 1.5 miles long. And after doing those quick fixes, there are still issues with his positioning and stuff like that, but I think it ended up looking much better. And now I'm working on the skin and for the character in the front, and he was also a bit of a struggle. Like, once I started putting in the shadows of his skin, it got really purpley and really dark really fast. And I ended up having to adjust that on more than one occasion to try and get the skin tone to look more normal and like living. And I think I ended up fixing it near the end. And these characters are my original characters. They are the main characters in a comic book that I am almost finished with the script on. I hope to have the script finished by the end of this month so I can put it away for a couple of weeks, then reopen it and look at how bad my dialogue is. Because when it comes to writing, the thing I suck at the worst is dialogue. I'm not very good with natural dialogue. Can you tell? I do nothing but ramble. Anyway, so I've had these characters for, I'd say, around 10 years. I first started drawing characters like them after watching the movie Pan's Labyrinth while I was still in college. And it left quite the impression on me. I love drawing ram people. I still love drawing ram people. And these characters came out, and I really liked how they turned out, so I kept drawing them, and then the story eventually came. And as soon as I'm done writing it, and I can't wait to start paneling it out, I've already tried. But I really like these characters. So the one in the foreground, his name is Dagda. He is the Prince of the Rams, and he's kind of a jackass. But he's my favorite character to draw, and quite a lot of fun, at least personality-wise. And the character in the back is my character On. He is Dagda's servant and best friend. They grew up together, so they've had a very long history with each other. And the comic itself is more fantasy-based, and I'm sure you noticed that these guys are not wearing fantasy clothing. And that was because when I drew this sketch out, I'll be honest, I really just wanted to draw the Letterman jacket. And I really like how it turned out on Dagda, and this character in particular, I think he suits the character stereotype that you would put a Letterman jacket in, which works for me. And the jacket ended up becoming one of my favorite parts of the piece. Now, there were some things that I wasn't quite happy with by the time this piece was done, but I had to kind of give up a little bit on it because, you know, I didn't need to be working on it for like 6 hours. I probably spent around 2 to 3 hours on this in little spurts because, again, I'm a nanny, so I work on it when I can. And the things that I was the least pleased with was the positioning of Dagda's arms, the character in the front, and the body positioning of On in the background, and then their hair. On's hair in the background looks just kind of stringy, and it doesn't really look like real hair, and I probably should have just started over with it, but I decided not to. And then Dagda's hair in the front ended up looking very soft and kind of unfinished. But again, for me, this piece was more about the feeling than it was about the execution, and I think it's got a good feel to it. I guess I'll let you guys be the judge of that, but my personal opinion, I thought the feel worked. And I thought you could really tell my characters' personalities with this particular picture. Now, normally, I don't do a whole lot of digital artwork, and I'm sure you're wondering, so why is the first video on here a digital piece? That is because I figured out how to do screen capture way before I figured out how to make my webcam work. I'm still working on that. A majority of the work I do is traditional, and I generally work in markers and colored pencils. Those are my mediums of choice. I also really like oils, but as I said before, I just don't have access to them the way I'd like to. You don't put oils around kids. Anyway, And what I'm usually best known for and what I get the most attention for is my realism, which, as you see, isn't this piece right here, but I've also started trying to do realism with Copic markers, and I think it looks kind of slick, and hopefully my video that I have been recording of my realism with Copics will turn out not looking like complete crap. We'll see what happens. So, anyway, this piece is nearly finished on here, and if you guys want to subscribe to me, cool. If you don't, cool. And hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this and listening to me just chatter on. And hopefully we'll see you for the next video. Have a great day, you guys. Bye!